was like 1,000 years ago. I fought my way out of that cave, became Iron Man. Realized I loved you. I know I said no more surprises, but I was really hoping to pull off one last one.
You know, it really is hard to think Avengers Endgame came out 5 years ago. One of the biggest movies of all time, and one of the most anticipated. The culmination of 22 movies and 11 years of Marvel. The fourth installment in the Avengers saga. The movie to bring together all the heroes from the previous movies to fight for the battle of their lives. A movie that revolutionized the way we see movies today. A movie about fixing the universe from one of the best villains in cinema, the Mad Titan Thanos. A movie that just so happened to make over $1 billion. But what if I was to tell you this movie isn't as good as you think it is? What would be your response? Well, that is what we will be discussing today to see if Avengers Endgame is really that good.
There is no tomorrow! There is no tomorrow! There is no tomorrow!
Avengers Endgame takes place right after its predecessor, Avengers Infinity War, with Tony Stark and Nebula floating in space. When an unexpected and unlikable character shows up, one Captain Marvel. Marvel saves Tony and Nebula, brings them to Earth, where the Avengers are waiting for them. That's when we get an argument between Tony and Steve. Tony passes out, Thor gains respect for Captain Marvel, then the Avengers decide to take the fight to Thanos. Thanos gets his arm chopped off, just for making food apparently. Then Thor goes for the head.
Say!
5 years later, Steve is at a support group where Joe Russo plays a homosexual. A rat saves the universe. Oh yeah, Scott also gets out of the quantum realm. Black Widow has a chat with Steve. Scott shows up, talks about time travel. Then all three of them visit the Hulk.
Bruce.
Only after going to Tony, Tony says, nah, I'm living a peaceful life with my wife and daughter. However, later that night, Tony finds out
Time travel!
and says,
I love you 3,000.
3,000? That's crazy.
Go to bed, or I'll sell all your toys.
Tony now joins up with the team. Hulk helps run some tests. Oh yeah, Clinton Barton was living on a farm with his family, but his entire family was snapped. So he changed his name to Ronan and started killing Yakuza. Luckily, Natasha convinces Barton to join up and restore the people from the snap. Barton joins to see his family or something. Now, all we need is Thor. Oh, what is that? That's not Thor.
Look how they mess with my boy.
Whatever. Thor joins after being promised beer, and now we have all the Avengers. And another 2 hours left of the movie. So, they talk, figure stuff out, expositions on the stones, then Captain America has one of his best speeches, and off we go. Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, and Ant-Man travel to New York 2012, Black Widow and Hawkeye to Vormir, War Machine and Nebula to Morgok, and Fat Thor and Rocket to Asgard. They collect the stones, Tony meets his dad, Thor gets his hammer, Natasha dies only to be brought back in Black Widow, a movie 5 years too late. Also, Nebula gets caught by her past self, and Thanos. So after everyone has the stones, they build a new gauntlet. Still not knowing that Nebula is the evil version, she opens a time thing or whatever. Helps Thanos go from 2014 to 2023. Avengers get ready, deciding who is going to put on the gauntlet. Hulk finally steps up and actually does something in this movie. Snaps his fingers, and boom. I said boom, you looking for this? Avengers base is destroyed, and we probably get one of the coolest fights out of this movie. The trio versus Thanos. Callbacks are made. Captain America shows he's worthy, then gets clapped by Thanos, and then, just when it seems all over, Steve gets up.
Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did?
Sam does another callback, and then all the heroes from the movies fight Thanos and his army for like 10 minutes or something. Notable moments are Captain America saying,
Assemble.
The Avengers play football with the gauntlet, Wanda has a mini fight with Thanos, Captain Marvel shows up, destroys all the ships, all the female heroes show up, foreshadowing what comes next. Then Captain Marvel tries to take the Infinity Gauntlet. Thanos says, nah.
I'm gonna do my own thing.
Hits her with a Power Stone. Then the GOAT, Iron Man, seems to take the gauntlet from Thanos. Thanos smacks him away. All hope seems lost again. But Tony takes the stones, absorbs them into his nanotech. Then Tony Stark makes the ultimate sacrifice and snaps his fingers, erasing the villains and bringing it in to the Infinity Saga and Iron Man. Until 2026 when RDJ comes back for Doctor Doom. Oh, also, Captain America becomes Joe Biden after returning the stones. Wow, that was a lot. But I pretty much just summarized the movie. So, we have nothing left to do but talk about the flaws and talk about how this movie was a great send-off. Now, usually I would go straight into the positives right away. However, I actually do think this movie is good. And it is a great send-off for the Infinity Saga. With some admittedly frustrating character choices and plot holes that lead into worse things, this movie does do some really good. And in my opinion, they should have just stopped it at this movie. But they didn't, so let's get into the negatives for Avengers Endgame. Now, I'm someone who doesn't like long run times, but for this movie, it actually works. We need to see how the story ends. So, the runtime is not a problem. But what is a problem is
the desecration of the sacred corpse.
Now, yes, these characters aren't dead, but I sure bet they wish they were. Who am I talking about?
Oh, funny you should ask.
None other than Thor Odin's son and the Hulk, strongest there is. Now, I'm not the first to talk about this, and I probably won't be the last, but man, does this suck.
We're on the verge of greatness. We were this close.
Now, I don't have time to talk about the Hulk and how he hasn't worked since his own movie 16 years ago, but that's why I'll be linking this video right up here, which really goes over everything that I can't. As for Thor, he hasn't been good since Ragnarok.
You need to leave!
Yes, I know, an unpopular take, right? But trust me, rewatch Ragnarok again, it isn't that good. Especially seeing what precedes it.
Well, you're right.
What I'm trying to say is that this is so disappointing. I mean, imagine if we had 08 Hulk and Thor from Infinity War fight Thanos during the final battle, instead of an obese Thor and a Hulk that is disturbing to look at, and whose biggest feat is throwing a bench. My other problems are the plot holes, but mostly it's what comes next. What do I mean by that? Black Widow, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, Season 1 and Season 2, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Doctor Strange 2, Hawkeye, She-Hulk, Thor Love and Thunder, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Black Panther 2. These movies should not exist. Some of them, this movie created. I'm looking at you, Loki. But what makes me sad is this movie was the ending for a lot of these characters. Did we really need a Hawkeye show, or a PG-13 Black Widow movie, or to ruin the legacy of Chadwick Boseman with Black Panther Wakanda Forever? Even Wanda's story was fine in Endgame, but instead they wanted to make her a victim and enslave a whole town for her imaginary children and husband. And what about Rhodey, who doesn't even know about Tony's death? What I'm trying to say is that this movie should have not only been the end for these characters, but the franchise.
Enough said.
Now, on to the positives. As I said, this movie is a perfect end to Phase 3. Endgame wraps up pretty much everything. While maybe not being as good as Infinity War, it is still a great end. Not only for Iron Man and Black Widow, but for the rest of them. Steve lives out the rest of his days with Peggy, even if Bucky is still out there being tested on. But every other character is seen to be happy, as it should be. In fact, I actually think this is kind of an Iron Man movie in some ways. He gets the most screen time. It starts with him, and it ends with him. In fact, Tony has some of the best scenes in the movie, like when he discovers time travel, or when he meets his father, which is like top 5 MCU moments for me. And, of course, his sacrifice, which does kind of overshadow Nat's death, but come on, honestly, I do think this movie is good. Yes, problems stick out like a sore thumb, but this movie wraps up almost everything. Now, some of the deleted scenes should have made it in the movie, looking at Take a Knee scene and Tony seeing Morgan. Endgame also has some of the most iconic scenes of all time, and some of the best callbacks. Look, in closing, 22 movies over the span of 11 years, this may not be a perfect movie, but it is a great send-off for the franchise, and it is still that good. Now, what does this mean? Deadpool is right. Well, two things. One, Deadpool was right.
No. With the whole multiverse thing. It's not great. It's just been miss after miss after miss.
And two, does anyone remember the anchor being thing where Deadpool's universe was going to die because of 2017 Logan's death? Well, I did not come up with this theory, and I don't remember where I saw it from, but when I heard it, it just made sense. It's also kind of funny to think about. The theory goes that Tony Stark is the MCU's anchor being. Makes sense, right? I don't know. I thought it was a cool theory, and it also makes me sad because we'll probably never have the same level of hype that we did for Endgame. Even my theater for Deadpool and Wolverine, no one was really cheering like they did for Endgame or even No Way Home. All I hope is that Marvel straightens up and gets rid of all these pointless characters, like She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and others. We don't care about these characters, especially when they're played by unlikable actors. What made Phase 1 through 3 so great were the characters. Well, that seems to be all of our time for today. I've been really wanting to make videos like this, namely this video in particular, for a long time. It feels kind of crazy to finally do it. P.S. I worked really hard on this video, so if you wouldn't mind liking, that'd be appreciative. But till next time, peace.
Just do it! Make your dreams come true!